Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. There's quite a few. Maybe a place to start for would be the Data and Society at dataandsociety.net. They had a series called the Alternative Influencers, and that is specifically about YouTube and the reactionary right, and that's really useful. And it's academic, but it's still accessible depending on kind of what you're interested in. There's also, it's tricky to say. I mean, a lot of academic research, I think, focuses more on Twitter, almost too much, and misses what's going on elsewhere. But for academic sources, one on 4chan. So Mark Tuters, Tuters, who's at the University of Amsterdam, has written on 4chan. And he has a piece in New Media and Society about anti-Semitism and the echo brackets on 4chan. Maybe when I'm done answering this, or maybe I can just do this as I talk. I can drop this into the title of it is They Rule. So that's the anti-Semitic echo brackets, mimetic antagonism, and nebulous othering on 4chan. So if you're interested in 4chan, he's really good on that. And then I'll just also mention my colleague who's working on the grant with me, Alan Finlayson, has written about YouTube. I guess it's just easy. I'll just put the links in the chat. Might as well take advantage of the affordances we have here. So this is in the journal Politics. So get academic, but this article I think is pretty accessible depending on kind of, how far down the kind of academic route you want to go with this. But it's about YouTube and politics on YouTube. So those are a few things. I mean, there's lots of different examples of this sort of work. Unfortunately, I think still too much in academia about Twitter, and Twitter is important for the alt-right, but maybe not where the energy lies. But Mark Tuters is really good as an academic. Alan is good on YouTube. And then Data Society has a lot of reports on this. And also Hope Not Hate has a lot of really good, as I'm sure Joe could elaborate on that, has a lot of really good, really well-researched information on these digital formations. I think also just one thing to add to what Joe was saying, I think with COVID, and I mean, you could extend this beyond COVID to kind of sort of the broader, sort of political deadlock we live in. I think there's a lot of people, especially young people, who are not necessarily politically aligned and don't have a connection to a political party, but are ready to be critical of things, and often in a kind of uninformed way. That's maybe more condescending language than I mean it to be, but people who don't have like a deep political education but are starting to question things. And one of the dangers is the alt-right is really ready with an explanation that's coherent. I mean, it's incoherent, but it's coherent on its own terms, right? They have an explanation for things. This is why the world is this way, and you can have fun while you're doing it as well, if you're willing to laugh at these kind of, the trolling behavior. And a lot of, adolescents are, right, ready to laugh at things they're not supposed to laugh at. So they have a kind of ready-made explanation for this sort of thing. So there might be people who are not really, have any kind of political education, aren't left or right, but starting to sort of question dominant narratives in some way. And then the right is really active in the spaces these people already are online, and they have a kind of somewhat attractive aesthetic style. They're funny in a certain kind of way, and then it's easy to get sort of sucked into that. So that's another way of kind of rephrasing the question: overlaps between left and right. In a way, it's kind of people who are starting to question without being left or right at all can be captured really easily, I think, by the alt-right.